Hello everyone, today I will continue telling the story of the single mother, Diệu Hân. I hope you enjoy watching this video. The middle-aged man pulled Hân to her feet while slowly backing toward the door. But the gang of young men had no intention of letting her go. The tattooed one clutched his aching arm and roared, his eyes bloodshot. "Damn it, old man. Grab her for me now." Two others lunged forward immediately. The man bellowed, swinging his stick with force, slicing through the air with a shrill whistle. The blow made both of them hesitate, suddenly cautious. Sweat rolled down his forehead, yet his eyes still burned with determination. "Back off. I won't let you lay a hand on her." His voice thundered, so firm that a few of them faltered. Hân staggered beside him, her bare feet bleeding, her whole body trembling. She clung desperately to his arm, whispering broken pleas. "Don't hit me, please save me." One of the gang smirked wickedly, circling behind to block the exit. He jerked his chin in challenge. "You think you can just drag her away? Tonight she stays with us." The man clenched his teeth, summoning the last of his strength, and charged. His heavy stick smashed down near the thug's legs, forcing him to leap back, stumbling off balance. In that fleeting moment, the man wrapped his arm around Hân's shoulders and shouted, "Go! Run outside now!" Footsteps thundered in pursuit, curses echoing through the abandoned factory. The pitch-dark space turned chaotic. One side fighting desperately to protect, the other closing in like predators. Far away, beyond the dirt road leading to the factory, the night remained silent, no one aware of the life-and-death struggle raging inside. The middle-aged man swung his stick again and again, forcing the gang to retreat a few steps. Gripping Hân's hand tightly, he yanked her toward the rusty gates. The door slammed against the wall with a loud bang, shattering the night's stillness. They burst out of the factory, gasping, stumbling over the rocky dirt road. Hân was nearly collapsing, tripping again and again, but the man's hand dragged her forward, not allowing a pause. "Keep going, run girl, don't stop," he panted, his voice urgent. Behind them, the gang's furious shouts rang out, footsteps pounding hard. Dark silhouettes flickered under the yellow streetlights, still chasing relentlessly. "Catch her. If she gets away, everything's ruined." The tattooed one howled, his voice hoarse with rage. Hân glanced back and saw the menacing shadows closing in. Her heart tightened, fear suffocating her. Tears and sweat streamed down her pale face, her bloodied feet growing weaker with each step. Realizing Hân couldn't run much longer, the man pulled her into a narrow side path, the thick trees hiding them from sight. They pressed against a massive trunk, gasping for breath, hearts hammering wildly. Outside, the gang howled, scattering through the dark, their phone flashlights sweeping like wolves hunting prey. The air was taut as a bowstring. One mistake and they would be discovered. In that tense moment, Hân clung to his arm, trembling, sobbing through broken words. I'm so scared. Please save me." The man placed his calloused hand on her shoulder, whispering firmly, "Don't be afraid, as long as I'm here they won't touch you." In the suffocating darkness, two fragile souls hid, while a pack of predators prowled nearby. The struggle was far from over. It had only just begun. The footsteps and curses of the gang grew closer and closer. Phone flashlights swept wildly through the bushes, illuminating patches of damp earth. Hân clung tightly to the man's arm, her shoulders trembling, tears streaming endlessly down her face. Her whole body was rigid, as if even the slightest sound would give them away. The middle-aged man was panting too, still gripping the iron rod firmly. He knew if they were caught, there would be little chance of escape. A dreadful thought pierced his mind. Is this really the end of the road? Just as the pack of wolves prowled for their prey, a sudden beam of white light pierced through the fog, cutting across the empty yard before the factory. More beams followed, crossing each other in the thick mist. The shrill blare of police sirens shattered the dead silence of the night. "Police! Nobody move!" A stern command rang out. The gang instantly fell into chaos. Some hurriedly shut off their phones and fled in all directions. A few froze in place, blinded by flashlights aimed directly at their faces. The scene exploded into chaos like a hive smashed open. The middle-aged man seized the moment, pulling Han out from hiding. Under the harsh glare of the flashlights, their figures became visible, drawing a nearby officer rushing toward them. "Sir, is she injured?" the young policeman asked anxiously, catching Han in his arms. Han nearly collapsed against them, whispering in a trembling voice, Save me!" The old man gasped, his wrinkled face streaked with sweat, yet his eyes finally eased with relief. His voice shook. "I kept her safe. Thank God you came in time." In the distance, shouts and scuffles erupted as the police subdued those who hadn't managed to escape. What had once been suffocating with fear was now filled with sirens, footsteps, and sharp commands. Han was guided outside. The night behind remained cold, but the worst danger had passed. She stumbled forward, her eyes clouded, her body still trembling uncontrollably. Tears and sweat drenched her pale face. The young policeman grabbed his radio urgently, requesting medical support. "Female victim in a state of severe shock. Requires immediate psychological care and injury check." A patrol truck pulled up swiftly. Han was placed inside, seated between two officers. The middle-aged man stayed at her side, his rough, veined hand clutching her shoulder as if afraid she might slip away again. He whispered reassurance. "It's over now, you're safe, my girl." The vehicle turned toward the local clinic. White light poured through the glass windows, softening the fear that had consumed the night. Inside the small examination room, a nurse quickly measured Han's blood pressure, cleaned the bloodied wounds on her knees and feet. An older doctor pressed a stethoscope against her chest, then nodded and spoke calmly. "No serious physical injuries, but she's in a state of acute panic disorder. Administer a mild sedative and keep her under observation overnight." Han still couldn't form words, only shaking her head repeatedly, whispering faintly, "Don't hit me. Please don't." The people around her felt their hearts twist with pity. A nurse gently held her hand, soothing her. "You're safe here. No one will hurt you anymore." The middle-aged man sank onto a chair in the waiting area, his hands still trembling. Through the window, he watched as Han lay on the bed, a thin blanket covering her frail body. The bright white light made her face appear even paler, but at least now, she was free from the fangs of the night. In the small clinic room, the steady beeping of a heart monitor blended with the wind howling through the trees outside. The long night was not yet over, but Han at last had found a place to rest, where fear could no longer reach her. The next morning, in the small room of the health clinic, pale sunlight filtered through the window, falling across Han's wan face. She lay motionless on the bed, her eyes vacant, staring at the stark white ceiling. Whenever the nurses asked her something, she only shook her head or mumbled incoherent words no one could understand. What unsettled everyone most was that Han seemed to have forgotten everything. She couldn't recall her name, didn't know why she was here, and didn't recognize anyone around her. When the doctor gently asked, "Where are you from? Do you have someone we can contact?" Han only lowered her head, trembling, whispering, "Don't hit me. I'll cook. Please don't be angry." The room fell silent. Everyone realized that the only fragments of memory left in her mind were filled with darkness and fear. No trace of family, no friends, no home. The middle-aged man, the one who had saved her the night before, sat on a chair in the hallway, his face heavy with concern. He murmured to the doctor, "She needs rest. Perhaps with sedation and care, her memory will return in time." The doctor nodded. There was no other choice but to let time heal. They arranged a quiet room with a nurse station nearby. Each time Han drifted awake, she looked around in panic, sometimes bursting into tears for no clear reason. No one knew who she really was or where she came from. All they could do was wait, for the day her memory might return, pulling her out of the abyss that held her captive. Meanwhile, outside, Ton, Dan, and On were nearly exhausted after days of searching. They divided the areas between them, combing every road, visiting neighborhoods, asking anyone who might have seen her. By day they sped out to the outskirts. By night they combed dark alleys with flashlights. Every time they came back empty-handed, the worry deepened. Ton clenched his jaw, eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. Dan looked worn and guilty, blaming himself for not holding on to Han that night. On searched with tears streaming, terrified she might never see her dearest friend again. At home, little Tom was heartbreakingly innocent. He didn't understand what had happened, only that his mother had vanished. At first he ran out to the yard, looking down the road, chirping, "Where's Mommy? When will she be back?" When no one answered, he broke into sobs, running through the house searching. In the days that followed, he cried endlessly for her, even clutching Han's old shirt to sleep, soaking his pillow with tears. Every time they heard Tom's cries, Ton and Dan felt their hearts cut open. Their resolve to find Han grew fiercer, because she was not only a woman in need of saving, but also the sole pillar of an innocent child. Days dragged on without her, and the once cheerful boy grew quiet. By day he wandered with her shirt in his arms, whispering, "Mommy, please come home." By night, his sobs echoed in the small house, tormenting Ton, Dan, and On to the core. Then one morning Tom spiked a high fever. He tossed restlessly, calling out for his mother in delirium, tears streaking down his cheeks. On clutched him tightly, crying as she tried to soothe him. "Sweetheart, Mommy will come back. Please don't cry." Ton sank into a chair. His fists clenched so tightly his palms bled. His face contorted with pain. He had never seen Tom so weak. A fierce determination surged within him. "No matter what, I must find Han. I can't let Tom lose his mother. I can't let this family fall apart." Dan too was torn apart. Looking at the frail boy, he was racked with guilt and sorrow. If only he hadn't lost Han that night, things might have been different. He turned to Ton, his voice hoarse. "We can't wait any longer. Even if we have to tear this city apart, we must find her." In desperation, the two men printed flyers with Han's photo, plastering them on electric poles, handing them to street vendors, motorbike drivers, and strangers on the street. On stayed home to care for Tom, praying every day. Inside the small house, the sound of Tom's cries for his mother became the driving force pushing Ton and Dan to race against time. To them, every hour without Han was another hour of the boy's heart breaking into pieces. In those dim days of fading hope, Dan was nearly in despair. His face was gaunt, his eyes ringed with dark circles from sleepless nights. Yet when he thought of little Tom's tearful eyes, of Ton and Anna's constant worry, he refused to let himself collapse. Dan walked into the ward police station, clutching the crumpled flyers bearing Han's photo. He spoke, his voice trembling with urgency and desperation. "Please, please help me. She's been missing for days. We've searched everywhere, but it's hopeless. This is her most recent photo. Her name is Han. She has a small child who cries for her every day. We can't lose any more time." The officers exchanged glances. One furrowed his brow, as if recalling something. They spoke quietly among themselves, then one turned back, his face serious but eyes softened with sympathy. 2 or 3 nights ago, we received a report of a woman being harassed by a gang at an abandoned factory. A kind passerby rescued her and took her to the local clinic. When the police arrived, she was in a state of severe shock, unable to remember who she was, only repeating broken words. "It may be the very woman you're looking for." Dan froze, his heart pounding as if ready to burst. Images of Han alone in the night merged with Tom's cries. He nearly broke down, blurting desperately, "Where is she now? Please let me see her. Take me to her right now." A police car was quickly dispatched. In the back seat, Dan clenched his fists so hard they bled. His eyes fixed on the blur of streetlights flashing past the window. Every second tore at him. He thought of Tom feverish and delirious, calling out for his mother. Of Ton and On still running themselves ragged searching. Of the fragile look on Han's face the last time he saw her in the hospital. Finally, the car turned down a narrow suburban road and stopped before a modest clinic nestled among trees. Dan leapt out, his legs shaking but moving fast, terrified that if he hesitated, Han would vanish again. The corridor was silent, lit by harsh white lights reflecting off the cold tiles. With each step, his heartbeat thundered in his chest. The officer stopped before the last door. "She's inside. Be prepared. She may not recognize anyone yet." Dan drew a deep breath, his hand trembling as he pushed the door open. What he saw inside crushed him. Han lay on a narrow iron bed, wrapped in white sheets, her face pale, her eyes distant and hollow. She stared at the ceiling, lost, not even noticing his presence. Tears streamed down Dan's face. He had found her, but was this still the Han he once knew? He stood frozen, then finally whispered, voice breaking, "Han, it's me.
Danh.
Do you recognize me?" But Han only turned her head, her eyes clouded and unfamiliar. No recognition, no warmth. She pulled the blanket tighter across her chest, as if facing a threatening stranger. At that moment, Ton rushed in. His face was a mix of relief and agony as he approached and grasped her frail hand. "Han, it's me, Ton. I'm back. Do you remember me?" But she jerked her hand away, eyes darting around in fear, pressing herself into the corner of the bed. Her lips quivered. Don't hit me. I'll cook. Please don't be angry." The room fell silent. Ton collapsed into a chair, his shoulders shaking. Dan clenched his fists, pain ripping through him. On held Tom tightly, stopping the boy from rushing toward his mother. But Tom burst into tears, sobbing, "Mommy! It's me, Mommy, please come back to me." At that cry, Han froze for a moment. Her eyes blurred with tears, but quickly clouded again, as if her memories were locked beyond reach. The doctor shook his head gently and said calmly, "She is suffering from memory disorder, holding only fragments of painful memories. The best treatment now is to bring her home. Familiar love and family ties may gradually help restore her memory." Hearing this, Ton and Dan agreed. They spoke softly to Han, careful not to startle her. On draped a warm coat over her shoulders, while Dan handled the paperwork. Ton stood close, his eyes heavy with sorrow yet glimmering with hope. When they left the clinic, Han sat in the car, still distant, her face tense and vacant. But this time she was not alone. Beside her were her loved ones, and little Tom clung to her sleeve, crying her name. Everyone believed that once Han returned to her familiar home, wrapped in love, the broken threads of her memory would one day weave together again. The car slowly stopped in front of the familiar house. That night was unusually quiet, with only the chirping of insects in the garden. Ton got out first, then turned back to help Han step down. She stood still for a moment, her vacant eyes drifting across the faded wooden gate and the moss-covered walls she once knew. For a fleeting instant, Han's eyes trembled. Somewhere deep in her memory, a blurry image flickered. Herself sitting on the porch shelling mung beans, the sound of little Tom's laughter echoing through the yard. The feeling came and went in a heartbeat, but it was enough to make her shoulders shiver. Dan whispered softly, "Do you feel it? This is your home. The place you lived with your child, with all of us." Han seemed dazed, not answering yet, but her hand unconsciously reached out to touch the door. The rough wooden texture stirred her heart into a frenzy, a sharp pain flashing through her head. She winced, stepping back with tears welling in her eyes. Han came closer, holding her friend's shoulders, voice choked with emotion. "Han, you're home now, safe at last. This is where you belong. And Tom has been waiting for his mother." At that moment, Tom rushed out from the house, his eyes swollen from days of crying. He clung tightly to his mother's sleeve, his voice breaking. "Mommy, I missed you so much. Please don't leave again." Han froze, staring down at his tear-streaked face. In that moment, as if pulled by an invisible thread, her heart tightened. Her eyes blurred, lips trembling as she whispered, "My child?" The words were faint as a breath, yet enough to bring tears to everyone's eyes. Tan turned away to hide his burning tears. Dan clenched his fists, while Han embraced both mother and child. Han had not yet remembered everything, but within her chaotic soul, a spark had begun to shine, the spark of motherhood, of the home where she truly belonged. What will everyone do to help Han regain her memory? Let's offer a prayer of peace for her, and stay tuned for the next video. Thank you all for watching until the end.
Xin chào mọi người, rất vui được gặp lại mọi người trong video của mình. Chúc mọi người có một ngày vui vẻ và hạnh phúc. Hy vọng rằng những câu chuyện của mình mang lại sẽ có nhiều niềm vui cho mọi người mỗi khi xem. Hiện tại thì kênh của mình đang viết về câu chuyện của người mẹ đơn thân Diệu Hân, của hành trình chạy trốn người chồng vũ phu, bắt đầu một cuộc sống mới đầy những khó khăn và gian khổ. Nhưng cuộc sống thì luôn luôn có những điều tươi đẹp. Hân gặp được những người bạn, những người tốt bụng đã giúp đỡ Hân, hai mẹ con Hân ngày càng có cuộc sống tốt đẹp. Nhưng khó khăn thì không bao giờ là hết. Hân sẽ làm gì để vượt qua những khó khăn ấy thì mọi người nhớ đón xem những video của mình. Và để không bỏ lỡ video nào, mọi người nhớ like, share và bật chuông thông báo để nhận thông báo khi mình đăng video mới nhất nha. Nhớ để lại cho mình một bình luận dưới phần nhận xét để những video sau mình sẽ cải thiện hay và hấp dẫn hơn. Cảm ơn mọi người đã xem hết video của mình. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại mọi người.